Metal Jesus, I'm back again. Now this week I thought it might be kind of fun to show you some of the plug and play consoles that I've picked up over the years. Now, what's cool about these is that they're typically not that expensive. You usually find them in, pawn shops and thrift stores, anywhere from like $1 to $5. One of them I have is actually worth a little bit more than that, but not much. They're pretty cheap. And they're a lot of fun because they have the games built into them. They come with a joystick. It's usually built onto it, or it plugs in the back or something like that. They're usually just sort of self-contained. They take batteries. They're super easy. The problem is they're not created equal. Some of them actually are kind of crap. And so I thought it might be kind of fun to show you some of those. So let's take a look. So the first one up here is the Plug and Play TV games, and this one has 5 Namco games. This is made by a company called Jack's Pacific, and this was released in 2003. Now, as you can see, this is a pretty nice looking little plug and play unit, and I like it a lot, except for the joystick is a little, how do I describe this? It basically has notches on the 4 directions, and so even though you can move it around, in any direction, it just kind of doesn't feel smooth, and so it's not great. It takes 4 AA batteries, as you can see here, and for some reason, a lot of these require a screwdriver to get them in. Now, it uses audio out and video out here, but for some reason, it's only in mono. So what I end up doing in my setup is using a $3 adapter that converts the mono signal into stereo, and so it works pretty well. So the games included are pretty decent. You have Pac-Man, Galaxian, Rally X, Dig Dug, and this shooter that I'd never heard of before called Bosconian, so I'm hoping I pronounced that right. It's actually a lot of fun. Now, this is where the joystick comes into play because like I said, it's because of those notches, it's a little stiff, and so these games aren't, they're playable, they're not unplayable, but again, it's not great with the joystick, and so this is not my favorite of these plug and play systems, but it's pretty decent. So the next console I want to show you is also by Jack's Pacific. This was released in 2002, and this is an Atari 2600 plug and play. Although, don't let the looks deceive you, because while it may look like an Atari 2600 joystick, they nailed that part, but they kind of missed everything else. It doesn't feel and control like an actual joystick. I'm not sure why they got that wrong, but it's actually unusually stiff. And, well, the games aren't emulated correctly. Let me show you. So included in the game is the classic missile command. Now, I used to play this as a kid, love it to death, but the sound effects are all, well, they're all fucked up. It doesn't sound right. See, here's how the game's actually supposed to sound like. So I guess the really cool thing is that they included, 10 classic Atari 2600 games in this, but because the sound's all messed up and because the joystick is too stiff, it's not the same as playing an actual 2600. So I kind of feel like that they missed the mark a little bit here. And so because of that, this is my least favorite of the plug and play consoles. Okay, so Jack's kind of screwed up the Atari one, but you know what? They kicked ass with this Namco one here. This one's actually really great. This is the Miss Pac-Man version, and it includes 5 games. But they got some things right on this one. For instance, the buttons are nice. They're really springy, and there's 2 of them, which is very important for pole position. The joystick just feels nice in your hand. It actually doesn't have the notching that the other one had, so you can go all the different directions. It just feels like a real arcade joystick. But it has a very cool feature in that it swivels. It has a twist to it. So, for instance, in pole position, you can control it almost like a steering wheel, and it just feels really good. This is a really nice Jack's plug-and-play console. So the games included in this are Pole Position, Xevious, Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, and a little pleasant surprise called Mappy. I hadn't heard of this game before, but after playing it on this, I'm a big fan. It's actually pretty cool. Now, the other thing that they did right with this is they got the emulation just spot on, in my opinion. Now, I'm not an expert, so don't quote me, but, based on memory, these games feel like they used to feel in arcades. And so, again, coming out, after the Atari fiasco that they tried to do, this is a nice compilation of games, and they just got the emulation, the control, the sound, everything right. So I really like this one. And then finally, I want to show you a really cool one called the Atari Flashback 2 by Atari. This is pretty neat. This is actually the most complex and I think most fun one to collect. It's also the most valuable one. They usually sell anywhere from, I don't know, maybe 20 to 25 bucks. And it's neat because it gives you a bunch of different options. They're really trying to sort of make it look like the actual 2600. And I think that they nail it pretty well. It's got the power reset, it's got the different difficulty settings, it's got the big select button. It even has the black and white and color options in the back. But most importantly, they include 2 actual Atari 2600 joysticks. Well, I guess I shouldn't say actual because they're slightly smaller than the originals, but they look and feel great. The other thing that this has is its own power supply. So I think, unfortunately with complexity comes the potential for failure. And so sometimes this one doesn't work. And I've heard that from numerous people, but I still like it a lot. Included in the Flashback 2 are 40 separate games. And there's just an amazing amount of stuff to play through here, including actually not just Atari releases, but actual Activision games and even some unreleased prototypes, which is pretty cool. I feel like they got the emulation spot on in this. Everything looks and plays like it should. And there's some surprising amount of variety and depth to these. So this is a great plug-and-play console. All right, well, that was a quick look at the plug-and-play consoles that I own. I love this one here, of course. Now, there are a ton more of these out there, and it's really fun to just stumble upon them. There's an Intellivision one, there's a Commodore 64 one, there's a bunch more. So if this is something that you're interested in, there's an entire world of these things out there. So I want to thank you for watching my channel, and thanks for subscribing. Take care.